Is India's new online gaming bill a safeguard against addiction and malpractice, or a stumbling block for innovation and growth? That's the debate we're unpacking today on this episode of Point Break. I sat down with a diverse panel spanning industry operations, global gaming business, and gaming media. The mix of perspectives offered a rare 360-degree view of how regulation could reshape India's gaming future. Let's get into it. Welcome to Point Break. Just a quick introduction before we begin. Today I have with me Dheeraj Gyani, Chief Operating Officer, India Tech Org, Nitin Goel, Country Manager, Indian Subcontinent Game Loft, and Rehan Huda, Editor-in-Chief of IGN India. So thank you for taking the time, gentlemen. To begin with, let's start with the whole reasoning of why we're having this whole online gaming bill. Why was this passed in India? And what is the need of it? So let's start with you, Dheeraj.
Yes, I think if we see the bill and we see the intent of government, it's absolutely noble. The reasons that the government has stated in the bill is primarily talking about addiction. It's talking about possible money laundering activities happening. It's talking about a lot of youth and people getting debt and being under a lot of burden of debt. So it's a very noble and bill. The intent of the bill is absolutely right, but I feel that the execution of the bill or the outcome is absolutely not in favor. And I'll post my points on why I feel so. But yeah, I think so. This is about the bill. The issues that we see right now is the history, where government in 2023 had clearly stated to regulate this sector, where they came out with the IT Inventory Act saying that, okay, we are going to form SROs and we will, essentially regulate this sector. That was in 23. In 24, government came out with extensive GST applicable on this sector. So from 18%, it was raised to 28%. There were several states which sort of embarked on a regulating of this sector journey. Tamil Nadu is one of them, the first of them, where they said, okay, we are going to highly regulate this sector. Parallelly, there were a lot of judicial cases also going on this matter, and we have mixed judgments. But the impression which was given to an investor, a startup founder, or let's say an employee who wants to work in this sector was pretty positive. It was given that, yes, this sector is regulated by the government. It is being considered as one of the sunrise sectors, and everything is okay. And now suddenly we see a bill which is absolutely opposite to all the previous thought process of the government. So I'll take a pause here, but this is all about the bill that I feel.
Sure. Rehan, why don't you just chime in? Because you've been in this space, you've been recording this, covering it to a very large extent. What has been your observation over time, and what is this bill justified?
So, I'll answer the second question first. It is very justified. In fact, the video game industry has been asking about it for years and years. They have sent around 3 to 4 representation letters in last 3 years from my understanding, and they didn't really want RMG gambling betting, like RMG specifically, to be closed. They only wanted a proper delineation, like differentiation between online, like what is video games and what is RMG. Because online gaming is an umbrella term. And when I got into the weeds of it, it is based on law from 1856 or something, like British era rules about gambling houses. And it was very confusing for parents, for video game sector as a whole, because there was concerns about addiction, but financial loss and loss of life even added onto it, and which made life difficult for game developers, because parents would stop their kids from even pursuing or thinking about such a sector. If the younger generation is not interested or playing the games, then how can they grow up to make those games or have a further interest down the line? Regarding how it went about, honestly, it was a surprise, because as Dheeraj said, about 2023 was SROs. 24 was okay. SROs are not working out because the SROs that the industry proposed about from RMG side and fantasy gaming, fantasy sports side, there was a conflict of interest from what the report said. So the ministry was like, hey, we need to go back to the drawing board. And even till the beginning of this week, Monday, if you would ask me the question, then I would have said, hey, okay, maybe this is 3-4 years down the line, maybe next government or somewhere middle of the next government when they pitch something out. And this moving this fast is surprising and shocking on both ends. And sure, like video game industry is great, like elated because there's a differentiation. What is online social gaming and what is RMG and what is esports? And esports industry is also backed this up. So overall, great, but it will like how the chips fall. It will take some time for everyone to understand.
All right. Thanks, Rehan. Saurabh Gupta has joined in. Just a small intro. He's the co-founder of Tamasha Live. So, Saurabh, we just started with the discussion, and since you are the founder of a relevant gaming company, why don't you tell me your perspective on this whole bill? Is it totally justified, or are there still gray areas in this bill?
So let me tell you a bit about my journey. So I've seen both sides of the world. Like I was initially into real money gaming, so ran a real money gaming company for first 3 years of Tamasha, and then we pivoted to social gaming, right? And I have seen with a very close eye on how this overall ecosystem has evolved. I think definitely how things shaped up over the years. So initially, real money gaming, Dream 11 was one of the company which started, was the first one to start real money gaming, and the ecosystem started building up. And in every industry, there are some good players or regulated players, and then there are some companies which are unregulated. In every market, if you go, so in real money gaming also, there were companies who were a bit regulated, like Dream 11, Zupi, and all sort of companies. And then a major market was run by all these Mahadev books of the world, right? And which is where I feel a major issue comes. So when industry is not regulated or certain companies are not under control, they don't care about what happens to the people. They don't care about anything, right? And they took things to a different level, right? So they don't care that how much people lose. They don't care that about the taxations, right? And so let's say around $3-4 billion of white revenue was getting generated, but more than $10 billion of this black economy, was running, and most of the people who were impacted were, majorly the poor people or the people who easily get into these, products. And so definitely, I think things turned really bad over how the overall the ecosystem evolved, how real money gaming evolved. And there was certainly a need for something like this. But I feel that majorly depends on how things are implemented from now on, right? Which is something is very important. So if government is able to curb all these illegal betting platforms and is able to significantly reduce the impact of it, then I think it's a big win. But if the government fails on that part, if these companies still keep on operating, then I think it will turn into something much worse, right? Because these offshore companies, they generate crazy amount of revenue. They take this money outside India, and what are the sources? Nothing is known, right? So I think the steps taken by the government have been on the good side, but how they are being implemented and how the government actively takes steps to execute this is something which is very, very important, which we have to see from now on.
Sure, Saurabh. Let's just bring in Nitin. Being from Gameloft, what angle do you look at this whole development?
Well, one for us, basically, we have been in the market for more than a decade and a half, right? And we fundamentally had been on the traditional video gaming space, right? And And I have seen it very up close, right? So the kind of evolution which has come across with this RMG space, right? And this was actually something which was, in a sense, hankering the entire video gaming industry to some extent. And fundamentally, and we had a brush with this, right? So there were a lot of organizations which were actually approaching us, wanting our games, which they can actually leverage onto their platform for running their RMG services onto them. And as an organization, throughout, I would say, not just limited to us locally out here in India, but having discussed with our guys in HQ as well, we always had a inkling about the way this business is structured, and we tend to have an inclination that this actually borders onto something which is gray and when it comes across to a gambling prospect, right? So as an organization, we took a very conscious decision on our side not to actually be involved into this particular space. But having said, the way this space actually grew leaps and bounds over the last 5-6 years, that had been astonishing, I would say, right? So, and fundamentally, this is something I think more of an India origin concept, because for us, nowhere else in the world we had actually experienced it, right? So it was something absolutely new to us. We on our side, while had not been very directly affected by it, but I had been very personally seeing how it had actually made an impact to the overall video gaming industry in India, and the way this business grew and completely overtook the traditional gaming industry, right? And basically it became like synonymous to the gaming, which is not the case. And that's where our contentions was, right? And I believe, as Rehan mentioned, like there had been multiple representations from the industry to the government to make them understand the nuances as to not to rush everything in a similar manner. I think there had been some success achieved on that particular front with this bill coming out, which actually very clearly demarcates the three different verticals within the gaming industry. One is like your video gaming, right? Which is fundamentally the biggest one globally, if you were to look, right? It's a $200 billion plus industry that had been in operation for more than like 40 years. So there is definitely I think representation which would have actually make them understand these aspects. And second is the kind of evolution which is happening in the esports arena, which is still I would say very at a very nascent stage. But the kind of potential concerns which actually the RMG space brought in was something that we wanted to also highlight as an industry. And I believe through this bill, some very hard-hitting decisions have been taken. This law, no, it's not just a bill, it's a law now being passed by the parliament. So, and imagine the fact, right? So it has the criminality attached in this particular law, right? So that gives you an indication of how serious the issue must be. That the government had to actually make it such make such draconian provisions into it, and just to add on to it, right? So there are a lot of numbers which keep floating, but for me, right? So the one number which really stands out is the NPCI data, which recently started to share by category spends. And this category is among the top 10 category spends on UPI with more than 15,000 CR in July of 2025, which makes it roughly about 2 lakh crore, right? So as an industry spends, which is happening. So imagine the kind of humongous impact that's making towards to the larger society. And as Dheeraj mentioned above, right, so the kind of taxes implications which came across, like say in 24, where the government introduced 28% GST. At that point, if you were to do the maths, right, so the industry would have been killed at that time itself. So definitely there are some gray areas in the way these platforms operate, right? And I think government has also actually highlighted in this particular draft, right, in this bill, right, on their side about those aspects. So in and all, I would say, yeah, it's a great decision being taken. I know it's going to have a impact on a particular side of this industry in the short term. But I believe some sense should prevail overall, and we should actually work towards a more sustainable industry.
Sure. Thank you, Nitin. So, which brings me to the next point, the figures that you were quoting right now, Nitin. So, a lot of discussions on how a lot of job losses are going to happen. And not just that, it will promote a lot of illegal betting. All of this is now going to go underground, and people are still going to do that. So, Dheeraj, I want your opinion on this. Is that going to happen? And so that just means that this whole bill is not serving the purpose?
Well, so in terms of job loss, definitely yes. We have about, an official number of around 1,400 RMG players in India who are operating. There are 3 unicorns. There are multiple unicorns who are operating the sector, totally regulated in India, paying GST, paying taxes, following the rule of the law. They hire lakhs of people in India, not just on the sales and marketing side, but also on the tech side, which is the game development, UI, UX, and everything all about that. That's the core business. Then there is a lot of the whole ecosystem of the value chain. This sector is one of the most spenders on advertisements, which also has a lot of negative connotation around it because we have celebrities endorsing it. Unfortunately, that's going against the sector, but the amount of money being spent and the whole ecosystem that this sector created was humongous. Over the last 2 days, I have received calls from so many friends saying that, my job is at risk. The founders have officially, I have seen 5 companies announcement where they have said that, yes, we are closing down our RMG side of the business, which means that there's going to be a mass layoff. So that's true. That's absolutely true. So that's the kind of job loss. Of course, with the promotion of esports and social gaming, new jobs will emerge. Hopefully, all these people will be sort of absorbed in that sector. I'm hoping so. But it does create a lot of uncertainty, especially in these times when there are layoffs happening because of AI. The big tech has been laying off people. We have seen a lot of large organizations also doing that. So it just creates to a lot of uncertainty and negativity in the market. And again, I want to sort of bring back to my core point and endorsing what all the co-panelists said. For me, I think there are 2 key issues which will impact all of us, whether in whatever sector we are, which is the investor sentiment. Over the last 2 days, again, we have spoken to multiple investors, and they say that, see, when we look at a sector to invest in India, and we have all the top VCs have invested in the RMG sector in India, whether you name a VC and they have huge investments. There's a unanimous view amongst all the VCs saying that it just creates a regulatory uncertainty and it's a regulatory reversal for us, which makes us rethink about a lot of future investments in sort of risky areas in India. While this was not really called as a risky area after all the bills and government discussions and amendments happening, there was a discussion around this sector being taxed at 40%, being called as one of the sin goods, which just means that, yes, there is a sin element, but it is being recognized by the government. So the investor sentiment is huge. And that's what I have been gathering from the last 2 days. Tomorrow, let's say government comes and says, why should we promote esports? We should promote physical sports. We have a lot of playgrounds, a lot of open areas. Esports is harming children. It's making them physically unfit. We don't know. So if there is no industry consultation, if there is no stakeholder consultation before coming out with such decisions, our market is not, is losing that sheen that the investors see in India. That's one. Second, Absolutely agree with the intent where we are saying that we want to go after the bad players. What Saurabh mentioned, absolutely true. There are multiple bad players in the sector. We should go after them. But what is happening right now is that we are punishing the good actors who were under the law, who were following the rule of the law, to stop the bad actors. We have punished them. The bad actors will still continue plying. The offshore betting platforms will still continue. We have not been able to stop them. I don't know how we are going to stop them in the future.
Got it. Got it. Rehan, what do you think? Is there any way to stop the offline or the underground kind of betting that will still continue?
I have had a couple of pointers I noted when Dheeraj was talking and even Nitin. I want to come back to first address what the pointers they made. One is, sure, there is uncertainty and VCs and whatever their perspective is, it is what it is. But the fact is, the genesis of this entire RMG side was based on outdated laws. They always hinged on the fact that, hey, technically it is game of chance and game of skill, the entire discussion. And then there was some Supreme Court ruling from early 2000s. I don't exactly recall the year, but those are the two technicalities they hinged on for the entire operation. So you cannot really, and most of the industry knew that things can change rapidly. That is why a lot of the fantasy and RNG companies started video game divisions. For example, Dream 11 had Dream Games, which will continue, which will publish and nurture Indian game developers for made in India games. So, second thing is regarding the underground betting and everything. It existed. That is why even Britishers made a law, and it will go on. But what this decision will make is it will stop the ease of access, because even fantasy and RMG industry, along with one of the ministries in India, they went after Google to put all of these apps on Play Store. And Google recently mentioned, like literally 2 weeks back, that okay, as per the law, we'll abide and we will discuss, and there is a way out. I'm paraphrasing it. Exact specifics could be different, but there was a way, or these apps would have been on Play Store and App Store pretty soon, which would make things very difficult for everyone. Because as I think Nitin mentioned or Dheeraj mentioned in first question, Saurabh mentioned, because he was on both spaces. Most of the impact is in the lower middle class or lower class and the uneducated who don't understand any of it. And they would simply download whatever is told to them, and advertising from cricketers, from like Dream 11 being title sponsor of the Indian cricket team, and any match you open, cricket is a religion in India, you'll see all of those apps advertising every break that you can whatever play a game for 100 rupees or whatever, and you will win a car or whatever it is. So it will remove extreme ease of access in the age of internet. Rest, I mean, underground stuff, that is up to law enforcement and regions where it is more prevalent. We cannot really do much about it. And beyond that, regarding the investor sentiment, sure, a bunch of Indian investors who have invested in RMG space, or almost all the investors, I don't really know what to respond to that or tell them. But international publishers and investors who are looking into the Indian market to figure out the next big story. Because, for example, China has, last year they launched Black Myth Wukong, which became a blockbuster. Literally, I think this week on 19th, they announced second part of the game. And earlier this year, there was another game Chinese market announced, and there's another game. So if I look, let's say 5 years down the line, China will probably have one major AAA game, high-end game every year. So most of the investors or publishers have long tried to look at India, considering the amount of people, consumers, or potential market as the next big space. So it will not change anything for them. They will keep looking at India. And in fact, this makes it clear for them that, hey, because earlier, for example, I am working with I lead IGN India. So even to explain to IGN.com, the US team, I had to make a whole like 15 or like not 15, but 8-9 pages of explanation about how it's different, because online gaming for everyone in the world is video games. It's not RMG, game of chance, game of skill, all of those technicalities that everyone was focusing on. So now it makes things easier for everyone, in my opinion.
Got it, got it. And just coming to the end of it, what would be the future of these betting and gambling platforms? Considering how some gaming companies, they have different sections. Like they can probably shut down the real money gaming part and concentrate on the rest. But I'm sure there are players in India where they've just focused on the gambling bit. So what is going to happen to them? Saurabh, what do you think?
So
is going to be
I have a very interesting thesis around this. So like gambling is something which I feel will always be there. Even after, online gaming, got banned, there is option trading. There are so many things, right, out there. And, let's say if you talk about, let's say 20 years, 30 years or 40 years down the future, I feel over the years, as humans keep on, basically over the time, if they are not able to add much value in the society, right, because of the constraint of intelligence, because of different sort of constraints, as humans keep on realizing that they are not able to add much value in the society, I personally feel that most of the time people will be doing gambling, right? So everyone in the universe will eventually be having universal basic income, right? And people won't be able to do much, with their time. Either they would be, chit-chatting with others, or everything will become cheap, and they will be getting a certain, so everything will become cheap, and lot of output will be there around the basic necessities, right? So the only thing which I feel which people would be doing is betting on things, either let's say about events, about anything, right? So betting is something which is very I would say something which is very attached to humankind, to society, right? It can never go. The only thing I feel is that people should not lose their livelihood, when they do betting. So it will exist in different forms. So let's say if online gaming gets is banned right now in India, it will still exist in different forms, right? But if government is able to government is able to ensure that people are not losing their livelihood, I think people still bet on events, bet on future, bet on stocks, bet on everything, right? So that is something which I truly feel. I think you can't remove betting, from the society by doing anything, like by bringing any sort of laws or anything. So that's what my thought is.
Sure, Saurabh. Nitin, what about you? What do you think is the fate of these companies?
Well, difficult to say for me, right? So, but yeah, one point that I just wanted to add was, like, so with respect to the VCs and the kind of investment which has come across. So, for me personally, I have no sympathies for that. Absolutely, they were absolutely fully aware about the kind of risk that they were actually getting into, right? So, and the lure of money brought them into it. And here it is. The fate is finally sealed. But yeah. With respect to some of these companies, as I think Rian mentioned, right, so some of these players had been gravitating on their side on the traditional video gaming industry. I believe that is one space wherein some sort of movement will happen. But considering the fact that the kind of massive revenues they were generating, it was like a cash cow for them. It's not going to compensate for sure. The video gaming industry in India had been operating for many years, but it has not been able to generate even a cent of what these guys are actually doing. So yeah, it's gonna be a challenging period for most of them. Most of them, I would believe, right? So this, as I think Dheeraj mentioned, roughly about 1,400 such players exist in the market as per unofficial figures. I think most of them will have to shut down because there was no real innovation, which was the part of this industry, right? Even with respect to right, the kind of resources that they were employing were not so very highly skilled technical developers that they were deploying on their side. The game quality which was there, right, which was immaterial for them. Right? So they were doing a very hyper casual kind of games, right? So which is still they were not doing. They were sourcing from other players. So yeah, it's gonna be tough times for them, I would say.
Sure. Dheeraj, any closing remarks on this whole situation?
Yeah, see, I would say innovation thrives on risk, but not on uncertainty. We can have that debate on whether this is right or wrong. I'm still talking about giving a certainty and some into the market. The fact is, and what we have seen, what is happening in the future. Some for the founders have clearly said. I have seen the blogs by the founders saying that we are moving to US, we are moving to a different geography because that is where we want to go and innovate now. We have seen that happening with crypto players. All of them move to Middle East from India. They say US is the best market to do all that. So that is what will happen. I'm not saying this is right or wrong. I'm not, endorsing anything, but I'm just saying that, as a founder who is getting into something newer areas, they want certain certainty. So that's what I'll sort of leave this panel. As I said, innovation thrives on risks, but not on uncertainty.
Got it. All right. And just a last remark from Rehan. Now, I mean, you have been saying you've been following the space. How different is it going to be from now
on? From my discussion the last 2 days, I honestly don't think very much will change immediately because a lot of these players will or investors will recalibrate and they will figure out if they want to be in this investing for the long term, because for them so far it's been quick gains and quick returns in last 3-4 years, in fact 5 years since COVID lockdown and stuff. So it will take time and they will figure out and they will come back, and I hope that they find some diamonds in the rough in next 3, 4, 5 years. Some people who band together to finally make that game that they want to make or something of some new idea. That's what I am hoping for as a news like video game journalist, to check more made in India games. And beyond that, I mean, I want to add 2 or 3 very quick bits about the discussion that Dheeraj and Nitin added. We have to consider that, as Dheeraj mentioned, that as per UPI data, it was the top 10 among the top 10 RMG and space in terms of spending. You have to consider that even with all of that, even with all of the revenue, all of that, how major a problem it would have been the government to be like, hey, you are done. In literally a space of like 4 or 5 days, because the 40% GST discussion I heard on Tuesday, if I'm not wrong. And I'm like, okay, this is interesting. Let's see how it goes and all of that. And again, as I said on Monday, I was like, it's 3, 4, 5 years down the line, any sort of regulation. And second thing is, Saurabh mentioned that loss of livelihood should not be a thing. That's true. I think the drafts that I had seen that was shared with the cabinet, that cabinet approved, and the things that Rajya Sabha and Lok Sabha passed, there is a clear reason mentioned that as citizens of India, everyone should have a right to life and dignity, which is a mic drop moment in my opinion, because India doesn't have anything called a social security net that even if you spend everything, then you can, survive. If your livelihood, your savings are gone, it's gone. You have nothing out there to, catch you in the difficult times. Lastly, sure, they will go to other markets, but the law ecosystem there is much more. For example, US, as Dheeraj mentioned, US has an entirely different demarcation for such apps and platforms, which is called iGaming, from my understanding. And it has social security, which will support and help, and which, sort of gives a thing, it is not a either or scenario for the players engaging in this, because they will still have live for on they will still have housing or food stamps and everything to survive. So that's it on mine.
All right, great, great. Thank you so much to all of you all for taking the time. This has been a very diverse discussion, and we kind of accommodated all the points possible. So thank you so much, gentlemen.
Right. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
What stood out in this discussion was not just the intent of the bill, but the many shades of impact it could carry on players, companies, and the wider digital economy. With industry, business, and media voices at the table, the conversation made one thing clear. India's gaming story is still being written, and this bill could define its next chapter. That's all we have for this episode of Point Break. I'll be back to decode the shifts shaping our tech world. Until then, stay sharp, stay curious, and think AI, think AIM.